Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on Splash and Go. I'm Dave Burns, he's Nate Ryan, and we witnessed a Brickyard 400 on Sunday that was interesting in a lot of ways. There was crazy racing, there were big crashes, and destroyed hearts as far as the playoffs go, and two of those include seven-time champion Jimmie Johnson and Daniel Suarez looking to work his way into the playoffs in the 41 car. So let's start with Johnson, the impact of that. And we'll talk about maybe what life is like for him going forward. But first of all, I don't think it was a shock to anyone, but it was disappointing.
Yeah, definitely not a shock, Dave. I mean, they made the crew chief change several weeks ago, and Jimmie hadn't really been up to speed with his teammates. I mean, really, he's been, as stunning as it is to say, he's been the lagging fourth Hendrick car pretty much all year long. I think that there was a lot of optimism in that camp, particularly from Jimmie. He was sending out a lot of positivity on social media. I've been told that he was very much involved in the meetings more than ever and coming to the shop and trying to pump the guys up. But I think it just ultimately came down to this is just not his year. Misfortune seemed to strike at every turn. Even if he makes the playoffs, I feel like the bad luck probably would have continued because for whatever reason, that's what 2019 was like for him. And now I think looking forward, it's what's next, because 2020 is the last year of his deal with Hendrick, and he talked recently about the fact that he's going to have to make a decision here probably in the next 3 or 4 months if he wants to race beyond 2020 or have the farewell tour for one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history.
I think in his ending interviews on Sunday, we heard more positivity, like you talked about, but also determination. I am not done.
Right.
He is moving forward. So whether it's with Hendrick or someone else, do you see just one more year from Jimmie Johnson? Do you see like a handful?
I could see just one more year, David, if the next 10 races are really difficult, because he's never been in this position. I mean, there's going to be a playoff media day this week in Las Vegas that for the first time ever, Jimmie Johnson won't be a part of. And he can talk about like, hey, I can deal with that. We're going to keep things going. We're not dead yet. We're going to produce some good results, fans. But he's not going to be able to absorb that and fully digest it until he's in that moment. And I think that will be a huge indicator of how that impacts him. And I think that you're right. He's striking this tone of positivity. I had Jeff Burton on a podcast this week, and Jeff sat down with him at Darlington, and he had every indication that Jimmie intends to race beyond 2020. But of course, again, there's a lot that could happen in the next few months. There's sponsorship. There's what does the team want to do, and he turns 44 a little bit later this month, so all that will be factoring into it. Interesting time in life for the seven-time champion. He's been such a part of the fabric of NASCAR in the playoffs, especially the last 16 years. Let's talk a little bit about Daniel Suarez. Didn't make the playoffs, won the XFINITY Series championship in 2016, brought that kind of I can take pressure attitude into the weekend. In fact, told me that he had studied some things that he did that weekend that made him more confident he'd be able to take the pressure. Ultimately, it wasn't his, Nate, and it wasn't for lack of hard driving. No, and it wasn't for a lack of the team trying everything, throwing everything out there to try to make it happen as well, whether it was getting off sequence on strategy or whatever. And you're right. I mean, he had that early issue in the race, and yet was able to rebound from the wall contact. And again, I think a testament to his perseverance. I mean, this is a driver who had a very uncertain future coming out of 2018 when Joe Gibbs Racing decided to move on with Martin Truex Jr. instead of Suarez. And I think he acquitted himself well at Stewart-Haas Racing Day, but I think now, much like Jimmie, he's not set for next year. He told us a few weeks ago that he has an option, the team has an option, and it seemed like indications were good. But we've seen the last few years that Stewart-Haas Racing has waited a while before making a decision on who drives that 41, whether it was last year with Suarez or the year before with Kurt Busch. So we'll see. To your knowledge, is he desired elsewhere? Is Stewart-Haas looking? What do you think? It's hard to get a read on it, Dave, because I think the team is very happy with him, I think, and they're happy with his performance. But they've also got Cole Custer in the XFINITY Series. True. They've got another driver in Clint Boyer who they're working on possibly an extension with him, but he's not set as well. So it's, I think, what you would term a very fluid situation. And I think making the playoffs certainly would have helped. I think that has got to be a little bit of a negative for Daniel Suarez, especially when all three of his teammates make it. I'm sure that's got to be eating at him a little bit. I'd say the odds are good that he returns, but again, until there's certitude, as you know from being around NASCAR for so long, you can't say for sure.
Jimmie Johnson and Daniel Suarez, two drivers who didn't make it through the playoffs at Indianapolis, with interesting futures ahead.